All right, so writing task 2, to what extent, the entire title of this lecture is actually writing task 2, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Many of you would have the argument that ideally, to what extent do you agree or disagree? And the common do you agree or disagree question is just very similar. They're both the same. All right, there's no difference. Actually, the main reason why I only use the title to what extent is because these three words, this entire phrase determines the outcome of your writing. So this is so important, okay? So to answer that question, whether typical agree disagree and to what extent do you agree disagree question don't have differences, actually they have quite a lot of differences. So I just want to put that into perspective, okay? So many of you who are attending this lecture doesn't have an idea yet of what a writing is. We are quite seeing new faces, new names on this lecture, because that's how our lectures are going to be. There will be attendees, and then there will be graduates, there will be passers afterwards. So I just want to welcome those newcomers for today. I just don't want you to be too overwhelmed with ideas. We have 5 formats of writing, and they are your do you agree or disagree, which we only happen to be done with it already. So if you want, we will be doing the agree disagree lecture soon. Okay, when the time is ripe. We also have the discuss both views and give your opinion. Again, another difficult question in the IELTS writing task 2, and another format that is required for writers like you to present. Next is the to what extent do you agree or disagree? So what is this? This is what we're going to unlock. This is what we're going to understand today. So every bits and pieces of this question is what we're trying to undermine. All right. And then open-ended, our most recent lecture. Okay. And the one that I haven't discussed yet is the do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Now, I just want to share that during the latter parts of the year, particularly on the third and fourth quarter, starting July until December, most of the questions, especially the to what extent do you agree, disagree, and the advantage, disadvantage, they are the ones who which come out much more often as compared to the rest. So what we would expect is that those two formats, format 3 and format 5, would come out much more often when I take the examinations much later in the year. That's why when my students ask me, when is the best time to take the exams? I always tell them the best time to take the exams is always the first quarter of the year from January to March. So, sir, what about me? I'll be taking the examinations next week or 2 weeks from now. You don't have to panic. Whatever question you might get asked both in listening, reading, writing, and speaking, the result will be the same if you don't prepare enough. And that's why we're here, because I am preparing you enough for your test. So you don't have to worry much about it. Now, why I am saving advantage and disadvantage for last? Because I've mentioned that we have been through the first format 1, do you agree, disagree, discuss both views. We did the open-ended already, and now we're doing the to what extent. Why am I saving advantage and disadvantage for last? We only have quite a few questions here. I think in existence, there's only 4 questions. And all those 4 questions, I already have a sample, which were uploaded on my Facebook group. So that's it. You just have to wait for me to discuss the advantage, disadvantage lecture. Quite possibly that will be next week. And then we will be getting an overall idea on all those formats 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for the writing subtest. So I just want everyone to understand that depending on what question, all right, you see this, you have do you agree or disagree, you have discuss both views, depending on the question or what I call the task instruction, depending on that, the format of your writing task differs. That's why if you take a look at that, do you agree, disagree, you call it the format 1. discuss both views, I use the term format 2. So I just want you guys to see how different they are from each other, how various approach are required for candidates like you so that you may be able to write a task that agrees with the designated format for this. So that's just me trying to compare the different types of formats out there in the IELTS writing task too. Again, um, learning objectives, we want to set our priorities straight. One of our learning goals today is to be familiar with the details of the IELTS writing task 2 subtest, in particular with the to what extent do you agree or disagree type. We also want to know the different types of instructions, which we already did, and how to organize a response in this particular type of task instruction. And lastly, to know how to approach each part of the essay, because your essay will be divided into parts, and each part of your essay will have roles to play. So it is imperative for candidates like you to know what are the roles that each part of the essay plays so that you can have a much more cohesive, you can yield a much better content in your overall written response. So those are the objectives that we have for today, and that is what primarily we aim to attain. Okay, so as I've mentioned, I'm seeing quite new faces here today on our lecture, and I just want to give you an overview of what we're going to expect. So I don't want everyone to be too overwhelmed with information. I don't want you guys to have information overload, but we can't help but accept the fact that writing task 2 is the most difficult task in the whole IELTS subtest. So if you guys have already watched my orientation videos, namely the free orientation, and then the how to study IELTS in this pandemic, what else? The review guide, if you have watched those 3 videos respectively already, you might probably have a hint of how you can probably compare your task, like you're listening. What are you going to do with the listening test? You just have to listen to the audio, and at the same time, you have to write as you listen. So every question, you already have an answer to them just by listening. And it's actually very easy to pass the listening test. I'm not mocking the exam, all right? In the Philippines, we have a Band 7 national performance. So whether you take the test whether you take a review like this or not, you're guaranteed to pass the listening test if you're going to do the right thing, of course. So that's how easy the listening test is. That's how easy the reading test is. The reading test, all the answers that you're going to write on the answer sheet can be found on the test booklet. So guaranteed the answers are there. But in writing, you will be the one to produce your own composition out from, let's say, a paragraph that contains an overview of the topic and a task instruction. Based from that, in your writing task 2 alone, you have to produce an essay which contains as much as 250 words. So that is your task. You have to produce a written response out of the question. So out of basically nothing, you have to produce something, and that something is a very tall order, okay? Because you only have, time pressures as well. So we will be explaining more about that later, but I'm not a coach which will tell you, hey, come on, enroll at 9.09er, enroll under my supervision, you will pass a test. No, that's not gonna happen. It's all about how you use all the information that I have into your own improvements. So literally, the coaching style that I have is all about improvements. I don't want my students to stagnate. I don't want you guys to be stuck. Like, okay, we will accept the fact that at this level, you do not have that much idea yet. So that's an excuse. If you will be doing the assignment, if you will be doing the writing task and you submit the report back to me, that's okay. If you will be having a lot of mistakes, tons of mistakes, I encourage mistakes as much as possible. The first submission you will be giving to me would contain as much as 15 to 20 mistakes. That's fine. Listen to me. That's okay. All right. For beginners. But if you've been doing this for quite a while now, if you've been doing this for, let's say, half a year already, like, come on, forgive yourself. All right. Tell yourself, if this is the If this is the error that I'm constantly committing, and Sir Kevin is telling me that this is an error, you know what, guys? The error will not conform to your liking. If this is an error, all right, if this is an error, if this is a mistake, if you will be submitting it to me every single time, like let's say you will be doing 5 writing coaching one-on-one, and every single one of the submissions you gave me will all quite have the same mistake, then I will be more than glad to tell you, hey, this is still a mistake. You're not changing, you're not following, you're not doing the right thing, and it is affecting your degree of performance. So the mistake will not change into not a mistake just because you don't like it. So the very first thing that you need to accept is the fact that mistakes are inevitable, but you can do something about them. That's why we have lectures. That's why we have classes. So I'm helping you. Please help yourself too. All right. So you will be given an opinion here, an argument or a problem. And based on this, you have to write an essay in response. So what I'm trying to say is that an opinion that contains a general public interest will contain an instruction. And based on the instruction, that is how you're going to organize your essay. And the organization is very crucial. All right, I'm going to explain to you later why. Okay, now, not only you will be seeing the opinion or the narrative of the context that you have to assimilate in your essay, but also you'll be required to discuss an issue, a question, or opinion of general interest. So what I've mentioned a while ago. You also have to give your own point of view of the matter. You also have to consider your opinion in relation to evidence, or perhaps weigh up the pros and cons of an argument before presenting your own point of view of the matter. Again, another is discussing the various aspects of a problem and then outline your ideas for solving it, are all fairly similar tasks. So what I'm trying to highlight, what I'm trying to emphasize in this idea is that whatever question that you will encounter on the test, there is a similarity. And their similarity is that the topic comes from a general public interest, an opinion of the general public. It could be about climate, it could be about shopping habits, education, engineering, anything about general ideas. You know, if you would be trying to compare IELTS with different types of English proficiency exams. So we have OET, we have PTE, we have CELPIP, KL, CELBAN, we have various types of English exams, we have TOEFL, all right? Those examinations are trying to attack, all right, the profession. So there is a requirement for those examinations to be relevant to your profession. But in IELTS, the topic that you need to cover, especially for writing, is going to be about what's happening around you. It's going to be the issues right now. Let's say we have issues about garbage. You might see questions about garbage. You're a nurse and the question is about vaccination, or whether you are in favor or not in using animals for test subjects in different cosmetic products in laboratories. So that could possibly be the ones that will come out. So sir, is there a list of the questions that I should expect to come out? Well, you know what? They're very lucky because at 9.09 our IELTS Service Center, we have a complete list of all the possible questions which were asked to our students in the past. So again, I just want to clarify that those questions which were asked to my former students in the past were going to be relevant even today. Why? Because all the questions are constantly being recycled by IELTS. So whatever question was in the past, let's say housing problem, they will be changing some words, but technically the idea is still the same. So I just want to clarify that this essence of being knowledgeable of what questions will come out on the test will give you an edge. Like, I mean, you will be taking a quiz and you already know what question will be in the quiz. So what more can you ask for? All right. So we already have a complete list of what possible questions are we going to expect on the test. And those possible questions will come out. So, you know, my students in February, I did a a video discussion about the whether a country should host an international sporting event. Okay, that was asked that very same week. All right, so my students were very lucky in February when they took the examination in Pampanga that was the same question I used as my example. So they got an overall idea of what they're going to write in essence. Okay, so the preparation here is simple. You have to read questions in advance. And what questions am I going to read? The past examination questions. Where can I get the past examination questions? On your orange book. Sir, I haven't got my orange book yet. I haven't gotten it. I can send you the link of the PDF of the orange book. So what you can do is you can get the orange book, all right? What you can do is that you can get the orange book from the PDF, you can have it printed, or you can drop by our branch and get your orange book. That's a freebie from your enrollment. So once you enroll under 9.09 or any branch, you'll be given a free orange book. So at the back of it, it has a 1 to 156 questions out there. So I'm trying to make an essay out of every single one of them. I'm in the process of doing so. And you will be seeing my samples today and also later once I upload some of my samples that I've done on our Facebook group. So you have to be active, all right? You have to check those uploads from time to time. So that is typically what you're going to expect in a writing task 2. It's difficult. That's it. That's what I want you guys to understand, that this is a difficult task. I'm not hiding that fact from you, all right? And I don't intend to. Okay, I just want you to understand that this is difficult, but as people who have a dream of passing the exam for our families, for ourselves, for our basically our endeavors, we're going to put all our effort into our craft so that we can make this as perfect as possible. All right. So although the topics do not require you to be a specialist, all right, you don't have to be a nurse basically to provide an essay that discusses the vaccinations or the healthcare of the nation or things in between. You don't have a nurse. You don't have to be a nurse to talk about health. You don't have to be an engineer to talk about housing problems of a nation. You don't have to be a farmer to know about the food insecurity of a country. So you have to at least have a general knowledge of basic topics. All right. You have to present ideas on general issues. And even though you are not required to be a specialist, those general ideas normally comes from, okay, they normally come from newspapers. So it's not just the questions that you will be reading, but also you will also be reading, okay, the newspaper. So what newspapers am I encouraging you guys to read? Well, the thing is, you can read Philippine Star, you can read Manila Bulletin, you can read Philippine Inquirer, you can read online portals like HuffingtonPost.com, Bloomberg.com. I want you to read those newspapers as much as one newspaper a day. Don't read tabloids, all right? Don't read Tik-Tik, Bulgar. Why would you read them, all right? Okay? What section of the newspaper are you going to read? But titingin ka dun sa section ng Lotto, hindi ka naman tumaya, di ba? Or why would you look at the obituary? All right? No. What section of the newspaper you have to read is the opinion section. And if you want to get as much ideas and information as you want, probably best to also include the news section of the newspaper itself. So because we want to get as much as information as we can so that our ideas will become much more valid. Our presentation will become responsive. All right. So the prompt is usually a background statement introducing the topic. So that is basically we're typically chopping down the parts of your task here. So your task description contains a prompt, and the prompt is what we refer to as the background statement that introduces the topic, and it is followed by an instruction to you. All right. And this instruction now tells us exactly how we should approach the essay. So if the question is agree, disagree, it is expected that the paragraph number of the entire thing would be about 5. All right. If it is discuss both views, it is expected that it's either going to go 4 or 6. If it is open-ended, it depends on the number of questions involved. So if it's only cause and effect, it will be 4 to 6. If it is cause-effect solution, it will be 5 strictly. So you see how important instruction is. The instruction tells you not only the format that you're going to follow, the number of paragraphs that you're going to divide your essay into, but also how you are going to approach the essay entirely. That is how important the instruction is. Okay, and for you to at least complete the task, you need to present about 250 words. Okay, again, for new enrollees, for new attendees of my lecture, I just want to share this to you guys that your task, you have two. Task 1, for academic, you will be expected to write a statistical report. Statistical report for ACAD, okay? And then for GT, instead of statistical report, you will be doing letter writing. Okay. Both of which will be done for 20 minutes. 20. All right. So you will be doing your task 1 for 20 minutes. Now, if this is your task 1, so your task 2 is essay writing. So essay writing, you will be allotting 40 minutes to finish the test entirely. And we do task 2 first on the actual exam. That is my tip. All right. So on the actual examination, you will get both your task 1 and task 2 instructions. I want you to disregard task 1 and to focus on task 2. I want you to put more of your effort in doing task 2 because task 2 carries 67% of your total writing band score. Just to give you an overview of how your writing task is calculated, all right? So your task 1 score will be added to your task 2 score, all right? But before that, it will be multiplied by 2 first. And then your task will be divided by 3. So meaning that 2/3 of your score will come from your task 2. So let's imagine this scenario. You get a 5 in task 1, which a score we don't want. Again, the reason why we're here is because we avoid failing the examination, and getting a 5 means failing. So if you get a 5, unfortunately, in task 1, but if you got an 8 in task 2, it will be multiplied by 2 first, which is now equivalent to 16. So 5 plus 16 is equivalent to, 5 plus 16 is equivalent to 21, which will then be divided into 3, and your score will still be a 7. So you get to understand that this is how important writing task 2 is. It pulls the score up. All right. Even though you got a failing score in task 1, your task 2 still will be the determining factor whether you will pass or fail. But again, the reason why we're here is because we don't want either of them to get a low band score. As much as possible, make it sure that both task 2 and task 1 will be finished when you submit them. Okay. So just to clarify, just to make things much more clearer, okay, much clearer, you will do task 2 first on the actual exam. You will allot 40 minutes for it. You have to write more than 250 words. Now, you're done, okay? You will do your task 1 now. You spend 20 minutes for task 1 and you write more than 150 words for it. That's the entire writing subtest in the IELTS. So that is what you will expect in the exam. That there's a discrepancy between their computation. So it is very essential that you will be putting the right efforts into the right things. Okay. So you do that, and I guarantee that you will be doing great on the test. So many of my students have done the other way around. They did task 1 first. Many of my students are hard-headed. I can't blame them because, some people want to follow what they believe and go. It's up to you. But that's just my tip. I have not seen this fail. All right. But I have seen those students who fail when they do task 1 first. So listen to me carefully. If you want to pass, in which you want to, follow my instruction. All the things that I'm trying to tell you guys about is not for me. This is about how you can maximize your time and effort into your writing, because I want to highlight this perspective. Time is not on your side. So let's get into the idea. If you will be doing your practices, one writing task 1 and one writing task 2, and you are not able to finish your task on time, that is fine. Again, let me slow things down for you. If you are doing your practice, this is your first time, this is your second, your third time, you were not able to finish on time, that is okay. All right. What I want you to do is, despite that you are exceeding the time requirement, you are still finishing the task. It gives you an impression that you want to finish it, that you want to complete it before you make things quicker. All right. Because, adding a bunch of words in task 1 is going to be easy. Making your task long, which contains a lot of words in task 2, is going to be easy. What's easy is trying to find enthusiasm in finishing your task. So if you, let's say, you're practicing and you spent 1 hour, 30 minutes for both, it's okay. But both of them are finished, that's fine. And then the second attempt, you did 1 hour and 10 minutes, that's even better. And then the next practice, you did 1 hour, but you barely made it. Para bang buzzer beater, okay? That's still okay. You're getting on track. Your fourth time, you did it under 55 minutes, and then both of them were finished in 52 minutes. Hands up, hands up. That's what you need to achieve. All right. So if you're doing this for the first time, forgive yourself. But if you are constantly committing errors for every single task that you are making, then perhaps the problem is not on the instruction, it's not on the lecture, but it's on you. So you need to understand which area are you having some troubles with. All right. So that is typically what you will expect in a writing task. So this is just an overview of what you would be expecting on the test. So let's proceed to the types of instructions. So let me highlight these topics. So agree, disagree. You see that your task here is to give and justify opinion. You also have to evaluate advantages and disadvantages. Okay. Well, in discuss both views, pretty similar, but the format will vary. You have to compare arguments for and against, and you also have to compare opposing opinions. So that's typically just comparing two sides of the same thing. Now, take a look at the open-ended. Here, you will be analyzing problems, you'll be suggesting solutions, you're going to answer direct questions on an issue. So in agree, disagree, discuss both views, and open-ended, the instructions that we're already finished discussing, we have an expectation of what we are going to write. But take a look at this. For your, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Let me use a different color here, all right? For your, to what extent do you agree or disagree? You see what bullet point I put here? The approach and format differs depending on your views about the task. Let me clarify that. In agree, discuss, and open-ended questions, we have expected outcomes. We have a generalization of how do they fare up as compared to the other. But into what extent do you agree or disagree? There are various formats out there. There are varying formats. And you know what examiners have mentioned in their lectures, in their portals? They mentioned that there is no universal format. Okay, so there's no universal format. So am I free to use any format that I want? Not exactly. They do not have a universal format for those who do not know what format to use. But I know what format to use, and I'm passing the knowledge to you so you will know how to use the format properly when it is your turn to take the exam. Again, the approach and format differs depending on your views about the task. For A, to what extent do you agree or disagree? There are multiple approach. And the multiple approach, the answer here as to what approach am I going to use as a candidate depends on two things. Depends on the question, whether the question itself is leading you to the format A or format B, or it depends on you. Which format are you much more used to? Which format are you much more comfortable writing? So if that is what you chose, then this is the format that you should follow. So we have various formats in A, to what extent do you agree, disagree? That's why I consider this perhaps the most difficult question in the IELTS. So let me just clear my drawings here so that I can proceed to the next slide. All right, just to compare, okay, just to compare side by side, what are we going to expect in a do you agree or disagree is this. You have paragraph 1, the introduction of topic and the stand. Then you will be giving the argument 2. Why did you agree, disagree? Reason, examples. And then reason 2, argument 2. Why did you agree? Why did you disagree? Reason 2, explanation, expansion, and then examples. And then you have your argument 3, which again follows the same format. You have the reason, and then if you can provide an example, then do so. Look at paragraph 5. It's just basically a summary and affirmation of stand. But if you're going to compare, take a look at this, take a look, all right? If you're just going to compare your typical agree, disagree on the left side of my screen right here, and you're going to compare it on the right side, which is that to what extent do you agree, disagree? You see how bulky your to what extent is? You see how big it is as compared to the table of do you agree, disagree? That's the one that I would like to point out, all right? That is not a guarantee that your question could be easy just because of the topic. It is going to be difficult because of the different types and formats that you can choose from. So I'll be highlighting this too, all right? And I will be erasing this because we no longer use the approach number 3. Okay, I'll explain to you later why we do not use your approach number 3 anymore. And one of the primary reasons is because your approach number 3 somehow mimics the discuss both views. And to what extent do you agree or disagree question? You cannot agree and disagree at the same time because your essay will be cut into 2 parts. All right. Well, some students have tried doing the approach 3 in to what extent do you agree, disagree, but I did not receive any reports of them passing the exam. So I am warning everyone not to use the third approach anymore. I just want you guys to use either the approach 1 and approach 2. Again, we're not going to ask you to copy this. I'm not going to allow you to take a screenshot, or if you want, it's okay. But I will not wait for you until you finish copying this. But remember, I will be sharing this format anyway on our Facebook group and on our Discord channel. At the same time, um, we will be discussing this. We'll be expounding the topic about this approach one and approach two anyway. So you just have to wait until this is over so that we can get to the part where you understand how to include all the things mentioned here on your task itself. So that's the idea. You do not have a copy of this, you will have a copy of this later, and the idea will be imprinted in your mind. I don't want you guys copying, I don't want you guys multitasking. You're listening, you're understanding things, and you're writing at the same time. I don't want you doing that because the focus that you are, the focus is being put in writing, not in understanding and listening. So I'm just not a fan of lecturing and writing at the same time. So that's basically just a typical comparison. I just want you guys to compare. Like you see how relaxed looking your agree disagree is right here. Okay, you see how short, how small this is as compared to the opposite side. So this is what I want you guys to understand, that they are completely different. The only difference though, okay, take a look at this. The only difference though that many people would see is this. To what extent? To what extent? To what extent? That's it. Many people would understand that that is just the difference, but it makes it really different. Okay, that's what makes this really different as compared to the other. That's why we need to do this. All right. Again, in the exam, your examiner will be assessing 4 criteria. Okay, the first thing is task accomplishment. Task accomplishment basically measures whether your arguments, your ideas, and evidence were all relevant to the topic that you're trying to discuss. Did you discuss all parts of the question? If you only discuss some parts of the question, not all the parts of the question, then you're not addressing everything entirely. That's why in getting a high band score for task accomplishment, what's important is that you understand the question, that you're going to underline important keywords, which you will be using entirely for your presentation of the idea. Now, have you discussed all parts of the question? It should be. Were you able to present relevant ideas and opinions? That's why we need to get as much information on newspapers as much as possible, all right, on news websites and in newspapers, in the book. So we need to get as much as information as possible because we want to make sure that our ideas are relevant and our opinions are valid, all right? We need to also make sure to develop a well-supported argument, and we want to make our position clear. So if we are going to argue, we're going to make our position clear, and we're going to present relevant ideas to back up those presentations that we're trying to make. So that is how your task accomplishment is being measured. I just want to get into the part, okay, that your task here requires you to write 250 words, okay? 250. If you're going to write less than 250, your TA score will automatically be 5. And we don't want 5 in your TA. As much as possible, we want a 7. So how can you get a band 7? Just make sure to write more than 250 words. So how are you going to do that? By, of course, getting as much information as you can before the examination day arrives. All right. Additionally, if you will not be able to present a 250-word essay, then your examiner will give you a deduction as well. There's a penalty. Okay. So if you're going to print the official test answer sheet in writing, then you will understand what I mean when you see the back part of the paper. There it is. All right. You will see the deduction. There's a penalty. So if you're going to not write, if you're not going to submit writing task and your writing task will be under length, there will be a penalty. We want to make sure that you follow this instruction carefully. Okay, next. Coherence and cohesion, the communicative quality of your essay. So you have to present your ideas clearly and coherently. So there is a manner in which you can present your ideas clearly. in a very coherent manner, and that is what we're trying to adopt. That's what we're trying to accomplish. All right. We also need to organize your writing logically, and the organization of your writing depends heavily. Okay, I just want to make sure. The organization of your writing depends heavily on two things. All right. Number one is paragraphing. Okay. Number one is paragraphing. So you have to divide your tasks into multiple paragraphs. And those paragraphs are what we call parts, like the introduction or the body and the conclusion. All right, so we call them parts. So each of those parts have their own roles to play. Okay, so each of them have their own roles to play, and we will be understanding how are we going to make those parts work for our essay. So paragraphing, multiple paragraphs, and those paragraphs, we are referring to them as parts. And not only the paragraphing will be the determining factor of coherence and cohesion, but also the connecting devices. You know what? Connecting device or your conjunctions, your subordinating conjunctions, we refer to them as well as discourse markers. And you know what examiners call them? They call them cohesive devices. Typically, if you want to make sure that your task has coherence, then you need to separate your task into multiple paragraphs that is composed of proper parts, and the parts are functioning properly. And if you want to have a much better cohesion, all right, so you have to use your connecting devices, your discourse markers, or your cohesive devices. So it's very easy, okay? So if I'm going to go from one sentence to the other sentence, or from one paragraph to the other paragraph, I will be using some additional statements. So if I want to add, okay, I can use the words additionally. All right, I can use the words in addition to that. I can use the words moreover. And I can also use the word furthermore. Okay. That's it. Those are the words that we use to add. You know, what I am really disappointed with the last week batch of submission is because a very simple use of additionally, in addition to that, moreover, I'm not seeing them. Okay, I can't see them in your essay. How come? You have attended 3 lectures already, and every single one of them features this. How come you're not able to follow? Come on, it's on you. Okay, so I'm very disappointed with the last batch. Okay, if I want to make a contrasting idea, okay, if I want to show contrast, then I can use in contrast, in comparison, or however. If you want to go much longer, you can use on the other hand. Okay, but I'm not a fan of nevertheless, because take a look at nevertheless. It contains 14 letters. What if you miss one letter? So it will also be a problem of your grammar. So it's better to use in contrast, in comparison, however, on the other hand. Okay, if I want to show example, I can use the following. For example, I'm going to use another example on my next paragraph. I will use for instance, or perhaps I can use to illustrate. Or I can have the words namely, like, such as. Those have the properties of providing a specific ideas so that your topics will become much more relevant. Now, sir, where can I get the following words? All of these words are already uploaded in your vocabulary for IELTS handout. So for newcomers who don't have the handout yet, I want you to check your October printables on our Facebook group and on our Discord channel. So both of them contain the link. So just go onto the link, have everything printed, and you can have the access to these words that I'm referring to. So I just want to highlight them because kahit nasa inyo na yung copy, kahit tinuturo na siya every week, nakakalimutan pa rin ng iba. Okay? So that's just what makes me sad for this batch. But I hope that all of you learned your lessons and we will be seeing more of these words somehow. So I'll be expecting you guys to use those words, okay? So vocabulary, you have to remember to avoid repetition, to avoid redundancy. So repetition is different. So let's say in your entire essay, I will be reading a topic about time. And I see the word time. Or your topic is about people. And I counted, as an examiner, I counted how many times you use the word people and you use the word people 7 to 10 times. Then the examiner will think, this candidate, Kevin, doesn't have any other word to replace people. So the resource of vocabulary is not very rich. So I'm just going to give Kevin a 5 in vocabulary. So we don't want to use a single word excessively for an entire discussion. As much as possible, you have to use synonyms. If you don't have synonyms for a word, as much as possible, use a word or phrase that can describe that word. So for example, if I'm going to discuss people or population, population doesn't have a direct translation of its synonym, but you can use the word people who inhabit a place, or inhabitants. So you can use the word inhabitants, all right, in replacement for population. So not only that, but you also have to make sure that your sentence structures will be varied. And in grammar, there's so many things. You have your proper tenses, preposition, capitalization, punctuation usage, even handwriting will also be a factor. What else? Spelling. Come on, spelling, capitalization. Please make sure that you will be following all those things properly, because remember, in writing, whatever you write here will be an evidence against you. So that is what I want you guys to understand, that we're not just playing around here. We want to take this seriously. And if you are serious in getting a band 7 or higher, then you already know that it is important to follow the instruction in vocab, not to repeat the words, to make some paraphrasing as much as possible. And in grammar, you have to be careful, because majority of the grammatical errors that I'm seeing are due to silly mistakes, all right? Miscalculations due to some silly errors. So I want you to minimize those occurrences so that your grammar will become as accurate as what we want it to be. So question analysis will be the first part, okay, of our writing an essay today. So we want to analyze the question. We want to know what is being asked. We need to determine the topic statement. We have to determine the prompt. We need to determine the actual question or instruction, what's being asked. So basically, as a candidate, you will be breaking down your task description into pieces. And those pieces are what we refer to as the topic statement, or some of you might refer to that as the background statement. Sometimes I refer to that as background statement, so it's okay. We want to know the prompt, or the idea upon which we're going to make a stand, and the actual question or instruction, or whether how many questions are there, all right? Because it also can be determined. Now, this is the question that we would be breaking down into parts, all right? So the best way to solve the world's environmental problem is to increase the cost of fuel. This statement right here is both the background or topic statement and at the same as the prompt. But this one right here, to what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? This is what we refer to as your task instruction. This is the actual task instruction. So again, you have the background statement right here. Okay, you have the background statement right here. The best way to solve the world's environmental problem is to increase the cost of fuel. That is your background statement. That is your prompt. Okay, and then the one that has the question mark, the entire, to what extent do you agree or disagree? That is what we refer to as the task instruction. So clearly, I'm not yet writing anything. I am just trying to determine what is my background statement and what is my task instruction. So to what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So full block. So this is how you should write your essay. Okay, so it should be full block. So when you say full block, it looks exactly like this. All right. So you begin here, and then every after paragraph, you're going to leave a space. Okay, so take a look at this. This is your space after every paragraph. Notice that this is the indentation only of the paper. So there is no 1 to 2 inch of indentations anymore. So this is what we call a full block. Do not cut words, all right? Do not cut words. Avoid contractions. So for example, I'm going to write the word can't. That is considered informal. So instead of writing can't, I should write it as cannot, will not, and do not. Instead of don't, won't, can't. So no shortcuts. If I'm going to write the word international, and you're going to write it something like this, it's wrong. So it should be the complete thing, international. That's it. All right. So that is how I want you guys to write your essay. Okay. No contraction. Just have to follow the general format of your essay. So to what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay. The approach and format differs depending on your views about the task. The task mainly asks you the extent of your agreement and disagreement. So when you say extent, okay, extent. So let me ask you a question. Jao, are you there? Are you still there, Jao? Jao?
Yes, sir.
All right. Jao, you attended my grammar lectures, right? You already attended all of them, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
sir.
Okay. Which part of speech answers the extent of your agreement or disagreement?
Adjective, sir, and adverb.
Exactly. Actually, it's not adjective, but adverb. Adverb answers the extent of your agreement or disagreement. So for you guys who do not know that adverb is the one that answers the extent of your agreement or disagreement, I want you guys to go back to your Grammar 5 lecture, which is still uploaded on my YouTube channel. All right. So we have, as I've mentioned, we have 3 approach in the past. We have 3 types of approach. But now we do not follow the last approach, which is the you both agree and disagree. We do not do this anymore. Okay. We only use the you agree, disagree 100%, and we agree, disagree to a certain level, but with one opposing view on either paragraph 2 or paragraph 4. So I am going to refer to this as format 1 or format A if you want to call it that way. And this one is format 2 or format B if you want to call it that way. So we only have 2 formats, okay, that we're going to follow. The format 1 is the one where you agree or disagree 100%. Okay. And the one that you agree or disagree to a certain level, but with one opposing view on either paragraph 2 or paragraph 4. So That's the entirety of our comparison, okay, with what approach are we going to use. Now, here are sample task descriptions, okay? So we're just going to do a breakdown. Okay, we're just going to analyze questions. So here it is, the first one. Here is my background statement. A country will develop quickly and will become more interesting if the population is made up of different nationality and culture. Now, let us first remove the to what extent part. Let me remove that for the sake of not being biased. And let us do voting. Okay, there's a statement right here in front of us, and it says that a country will develop quickly and will become more interesting if the population is made up of different nationality and culture. Now, Rich Ann, are you there? I want to ask you a question, Rich Ann.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Rich Ann, do you think that this statement is accurate? That if a country contains a population that is diverse, do you think that that country will be able to develop more quickly compared to others who are not as diverse? And it will become as more interesting. Do you think so?
Yes.
That's very accurate. All right. Actually, Rich Ann, that is the question that we have to answer. Okay. The question that we have to answer is whether or not, as candidate, we will be agreeing or disagreeing with the statement. Okay, the statement that this country, or we're not specifically implying that this country is the Philippines, or this country is Canada, or any country around the world. But the idea here is that when a country contains a population that is diverse, when you say diverse, it is made up of different nationalities and the culture are very different from one another, that they will become more interesting and they will be able to develop quickly. But again, if you answer it yes, I think the statement is correct, then you have to defend that. You have to explain, all right? Next, here is another, okay? Museums and artworks are important for the country. So I have here museums and artworks are important for the country, for the history and culture, from international down the local arena. So let me ask you a question, Jocelyn. Jocelyn, do you think that museums and artworks are generally important?
Yes po, sir.
Yes, that's it. That's it. I just want you guys to answer that question, whether you agree with that statement or not. Okay. So you mentioned that museums and artworks are important for the country, for the history and culture from the international down to local arena. So later we will be returning to this question because I want to focus on that. To what extent do you agree or disagree part? Okay. So everyone, here is your approach number one. Okay. Your approach number one is you agree and disagree at the same time. Sorry. You agree or disagree 100%. So if you agree or disagree 100%, it means that you will be using the same format. Listen to me. Same format of the you agree or disagree instruction. Let me repeat that, okay? The first format, or the approach one, as we'd like to call it, approach one, format A, you name it. This is where we agree or disagree 100%. And if my perception to the topic is, yeah, it's 100%, my opinion is untainted, my opinion is non-biased, I completely agree. So if you do that, you will follow the same format as the do you agree or disagree. Sir, question. What is the format of do you agree or disagree? So I have here students like Rich Ann. I have here Kaislyn Parulan. So you guys are new enrollees who I think haven't attended my previous agree disagree lecture. So don't worry. When the time is right, you'll be able to attend that lecture. But if you want, you can do a recap. You can watch my discussion of agree disagree on my YouTube channel. So you can send me a private message later asking for the link on my YouTube account. So I'll be giving you the channel itself. So consider subscribing. And at the same time, I'll be sending you the link to the format of agree disagree. So it will take about 2 hours and a half as well, like this, because that's a different thing. But listen to me. Probable words to use when stating your stand on paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 is what we call as the stand, all right? Here are the words that we use. Take a look at this. Here are the words that we use so that we let the examiner understand that our opinion is in the 100% level. So we use the word completely, fully, totally, wholeheartedly, entirely, really, very much, downright, strongly. Okay. Leslie, I have a question for you, Leslie.
Yes po, sir.
Leslie, if the completely, fully, totally, wholeheartedly, entirely, really, very much, downright, strongly are the words that I use for a to what extent do you agree, disagree, 100% level. Can I use these words as well on the basic agree, disagree, the one without the to what extent? Pwede ko rin bang gamitin itong mga words na to para sa isang typical na agree, disagree lang, Leslie?
Hindi po, sir.
Hindi. Okay, great answer. Okay, I just want everyone to understand your agree, disagree, and to what extent do you agree, disagree? What separates them is the word that you use to express the extent of your agreement and disagreement. So if your task, okay, is agree, disagree without the to what extent, even though the approach 1 and the agree, disagree are the same, we will not be using the completely, fully, totally, entirely, really, very much, downright, and strongly. We will not use them. Why? Because that is what separates a typical agree, disagree to a to what extent instruction, the word that we use. Okay, so thank you so much for that, Leslie. So we will proceed now with the discussion of this format. So again, here are the words that you can choose from. If you want to take a screenshots, fine, but I don't recommend taking screenshots anymore since, okay, here are the words. You have completely, fully, wholeheartedly, entirely, really, very much, downright, and strongly. Here are the words that will prove that we are on the level that we are agreeing 100%, okay? There's no taint on it, 100%. So 1, okay, 100%. So there's no buts, there's no ifs, 100%. I follow this, all right? I believe in this. So that is how you write the stand. Okay, so let me just clear my drawings. So how will your body and conclusion be arranged? So argument 1, you answer the question, why did you agree or disagree? Argument 2, moreover, why did you agree or disagree? Argument 3, furthermore, why did you agree or disagree? Again, we will be breezing through the 100% approach because clearly this approach is very similar to your basic agree disagree. And everyone, if you want to watch the recap of how to arrange ideas on an agree or disagree question, then I will be sending the link. And also when I re-upload this, when I post the replay here on YouTube, I will be putting in the description the link leading you to the agree disagree, not to what extent, because we will not be having that much time. But I will be giving you an example as well. So paano itong 100% na to very similar to agree disagree. So okay, so again, I just want to draw something here. Okay, I just want to draw something. So if you're going to do an agree disagree, here's how it looks. All right, so paragraph 1, that is your generalization plus stand. And then paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, and then conclusion. Paragraph 5 is your conclusion plus stand. Right, so that is how the essay will look like. But sir, the question is, what will these paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and paragraph 4 will contain? Ano po ba magiging laman yan? So each of the paragraph, okay, each of the paragraph in the body, paragraph 2, 3, and 4, respectively, will contain one reason, all right, one explanation of the reason, and if possible, you can provide evidence. Example, you give one. So it can also be paragraph 2. You will also give another reason. The reason why I agree is because, all right. You will also be giving an explanation, and you will be justifying it with evidence as well. But in your paragraph 4, if you only have, okay, if you only have one reason and one explanation, but you no longer have an evidence, so be it. You don't have an evidence, that's fine. Your paragraph only contains one reason, one explanation. So examples to support your stand will be completely optional though. But in the entire essay, there should at least be one example. So it's either may example ka sa paragraph 2, wala ka example sa 3 and 4. Or may example ka sa 3, wala ka example sa 2 and 4. May example ka sa 2, 3, 4, so be it. Diba? So it means that you have a lot of examples. So that is what your formatting will look like. That is how the structure would look like. So we shall now proceed to approach 2, or the ideal approach. All right. You agree or disagree to a certain level, but with one opposing view on either paragraph 2 or paragraph 4. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing, okay? Sino ba? Okay. Christine Magadia. Christine, nandiyan ka ba, Christine? Help me out on this one, Christine. Christine Magadia. Christine. Mukhang tulog si
Yes,
Christine.
sir.
Yeah, Christine, narinig mo ba ako?
Yes po.
Okay, mabuti naman. Christine, nakita mo tong green na circle sa harapan natin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Imaginein mo to pakbet. Alam mo ba yung pakbet, Christine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ano-ano ba yung mga gulay na nasa pakbet? Sige. Bigyan mo nga ako ng halimbawa.
Okra. Talong.
Sige. Itong circle na to, lalagyan natin to okra. Okra. Yan. Okra yan, ha? Yan. So, mangkok yan ng gulay. Alright. Tapos, iba naman. Ano naman? Ano pa bang gulay sa ano?
Ampalaya, sir.
Palaya. Anong mas masakit? Anong mas mapait pala? Ampalaya o ampalayain ka?
Pareho.
Ampalaya, alright. So meron tayong ampalaya. And then, ano pa ba nilalagay sa pakbet?
Talong, sir.
Ha?
Talong.
Talong. Siyempre, pahaba yung talong. Ayan. Not blue, teka. So, Christine, ang reason, bakit hiningin ko ang tulong mo dito is, makikita mo, meron tayong 3 ingredient sa ating pakbet. Alright. So sa ating pakbet, meron tayong ampalaya, meron tayong okra, meron tayong talong. Bilang isang tao na hindi masyado mahilig kumain ng gulay, ang okra at ampalaya, yung ampalaya, kinakain ko yan, bata pa lang ako. Okra, kakatuto ko pa lang kumain sa kanya 2019. So until now, kumakain na ako ng okra. But I do not eat talong. Ikaw ba, Christine? Sa kanilang 3 dyan, meron ka bang hindi kinakain?
Wala po.
Wala. So kinakain mo lahat. So this is the idea that I want everyone to understand. Agree ako sa pakbet. Agree ako na healthy ang pakbet. Agree ako na maganda ang pakbet. Masarap siyang kainin. Siya ay typical Filipino dish. Pero hindi lang ako agree sa talong. Nagigets mo ba ako?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ibig sabihin, nag-a-agree ba ako sa kanya entirely? Hindi. Di ba?
No.
Ang mangyayari, kakainin ko yung pakbet pero yung mga talong ihiwalay ko siya. Alright. So, Christine, yun ang gusto kong itanong sa iyo. Okay. Okay na, Christine?
Okay,
Susunod ko
sir.
naman natatanungin si Mary Rose Padilla. Yan, Mary Rose. Tulungan mo naman ako dito, Mary Rose.
Yes, sir.
Rose, ayan. Ang gagawin naman natin, Mary Rose, ay pizza. Yan, pizza. Makain ka ba ng pizza, Mary Rose?
Yes, sir.
Dapat ang pizza natin brown. Meron ka bang flavor na hindi kinakain sa pizza?
Wala naman po, sir.
Tama, no? Majority ng mga kakilala natin, hindi kumakain ng ano eh. Hindi kumakain ng Hawaiian pizza kasi ayaw nila ng
Pineapple?
So gusto ko lang i-highlight ito. Gusto ko lang ipakita sa iyo na meron ako ditong pizza. Pero hindi siya entirely na pepperoni. Okay? So, drawing muna tayo ng mga pepperoni. Kulay natin. So, ito yung pepperoni. Yan. Ito yung mga pang-design. Ayan. Tapos, yung kabilang part ng ating pizza ay hindi na siya pepperoni. Itong quarter na to, yan ay ano na, Hawaiian yan. Ayan yung mga onions. Ito naman yung ating mga pineapples. Yan. So nakita mo, Mary Rose, meron akong pizza which is majority pepperoni yung flavor. Tapos
Yes,
yung isang pizza ko naman ay Hawaiian. Pero nung pinagsama ko silang dalawa, matatawag ko pa rin ba siyang pizza?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So yun lang. Yun lang, Mary Rose. Yun ang gusto kong maging idea natin dito. Okay?
Okay po.
Ngayon, pumunta na tayo sa approach number 2. Bakit kinailangan kong mag-drawing ng pakbet? Bakit kinailangan kong mag-drawing ng pizza? Dahil importante yan. Alright? Dahil hindi ako agree sa idea na yon entirely. Okay? At paano ko ba siya gagawing word? Paano ko ba siya gagawin na, do you call this? Paano ko siya gagawin na English? Hindi ko naman pwedeng sabihin na I 70% agree but I 30% do not. So you cannot use numbers to justify. We can only use words. So you can use the word for the most part. You can use the word generally. You can also use the word almost entirely, mostly, and predominantly. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Jonalyn Noveno. Jonalyn?
Yes, sir.
Jonalyn, kung papipiliin ka sa 5, for the most part, generally, almost entirely, mostly, predominantly, sino dyan sa tingin mo ang pinakakarapat dapat na gamitin natin na word, na phrase sa kanilang 5?
Ano, sir? Predominantly, sir.
Predominantly. Jonalyn, sasabihin ko sa iyo, yan ang pinaka-hindi. Bakit? Tinan mo, Jonalyn, ha? Tinan mo. Turuan kita. So for the most part, bilangin mo nga, Jonalyn, ilang words meron yun?
4, sir.
4. Yung word ba na predominantly, madalas mo ba siyang gamitin sa buhay mo, Jonalyn?
Sometimes, sir, pagka sa essay.
Sometimes. Ang problem kasi, sa mga person na hindi masyadong accustomed sa paggamit ng predominantly, baka mamali pa ng spelling. Haba-haba di ba? Ngayon, here's what I'm trying to say. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na lahat kayo mag for the most part. Pero, magkaroon din kayo ng variation. So, halimbawa, Jonalyn, ikaw gagamitin mo si predominantly kasi nga, sanay ka sa kanya, it's fine. Si Jao, gagamitin niya si almost entirely, okay. Si Jocelyn, gagamitin niya si for the most part, walang problema. Si Leslie, gagamitin niya si generally, okay na okay. Si Rich Ann, gagamitin niya si mostly, wala ring problema, walang kaso. So what I'm trying to say is that out of all the 5 options here to present that you agree or disagree to a certain level, or what I call a 70-30 approach, you can choose any of the 5 words, but I would be choosing for the most part. Bakit? Just because it contains 4 words as compared to predominantly that only contains 1. At comparison nga, mas mahirap siyang i-spell. Yun lang naman, Jonalyn. All right. Let us talk about this topic. Sino pa hindi ko natatanong? Okay. Si Kaislyn. Kaislyn, nalika rito, Kaislyn.
Yes po.
Alright, Kaislyn. Ang cute naman ang kasama mo sa picture mo na yan, Kaislyn. Anak mo ba yan, Kaislyn?
Apo.
So, Kaislyn, tanongin muna kita, ha? So, we have an idea here. According to the idea that we have, the internet has made traditional libraries unnecessary. Because ang idea natin dito, Kaislyn, is that many of the students today prefer to use online resources. They want to use websites, they use Google, they use other research materials, other research platforms, particularly online. That is the reason why there is this statement na internet has made traditional libraries unnecessary. Now, my question here, Kaislyn, is that do you believe that this idea is true?
Yes, sir.
Yes, correct. Okay. But here's what I want you to understand. So I will be giving, okay, so I've mentioned, okay, kanina, meron tayong pakbet. All right. So we have the pakbet, dapat green pala. So we have the pakbet right here. All right. So I'm going to give 2 positive ideas. I will be giving the okra and the ampalaya 2 positive ideas, but I will be having a talong, okay, which means na hindi ako nag-agree entirely dito kay internet. So which means I agree that indeed internet has made traditional libraries unnecessary, and I'm going to explain that. But what I want you to do is I don't want you to agree 100% to the topic because there's one opposing view to paragraph 2 or paragraph 4. Okay?
Okay po.
So, Caitlin, tulungan mo nga ako. Ano ba sa tingin mo ang advantage ng internet compared sa library? In
Mas
terms of...
madali siyang i-access, sir. Accessible siya para sa mga
Oh, good job.
mag-aaral.
Accessible. So, number 1, argument 1 natin. Okay, argument 1. Accessible. Sige, Caitlin, ano kaya ang isa pa?
Mas madaling maghanap, sir, ng mga topics or ng mga ganun, sir.
Tama,
Parang
which is
mas madaling
accessible
siyang
ulit.
gamitin. Opo. Ano pa
Oo.
ba?
Isa pa, convenience at saka price.
Yes, sir. Convenient.
Tsaka price. So pagdating kasi sa presyo, although many people would argue na mas mahal bumili ng tablets, mas mahal bumili ng laptops. But if you're trying to compare, when I was in high school, every year, I need to buy books which cost me around 8,000 to 12,000 per year.
Yes, sir.
Tapos kapag nag-college na, hindi lang per year, ang
Another
bilihan ng book, 5K
Per
to
sem.
7K per sem. Tatlo yung sem, tri-sem ang nursing. Nursing kasi ako ang course ko nung ako'y college. So, That's the price that you have to pay. But ang problema, yung books na ginamit mo noong 2013, which was the year I graduated, hindi mo na pwedeng gamitin
Outdated na sa this year.
2021. Tama, di ba? Because hindi na correct yung edition nun sa ngayon. May mga binago na silang idea. So, that's the reason why your argument too. Now, Kaislyn, this is the question. Bakit hindi ako magwa 100% kay kay internet? Kasi meron kang argument 3 na pro library. So, ano ba yung meron sa library? Siyempre, free access.
Yes.
Free access sa books na yung may mga tao na hindi maka-afford ng gadgets, may mga tao na hindi kayang abutin ng signal. Yung hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin kaso ng malaria at ng filariasis tulad ng mga kabundukan sa norte, mga naggegera sa south part of the country. So, that's it. So, you notice that my argument 1 and argument 2 were both pro-internet. But my argument 3 is pro-library. So, that means that I agree, okay, I agree, tinan mo ha, I agree to both of them. I agree that internet made traditional libraries unnecessary. But I also agree that at one point, out of the 3 points that I've mentioned, at one point, libraries are still essential.
Yes, sir.
So, ano nangyari? So, 70%, ulitin natin, 70% of my discussion, here's my ampalaya and my okra, and then pro-library, that will be my talong. So, something like that. Okay, Kaislyn, thank you so much.
Thank you po.
So before I proceed, meron bang tanong yung iba? Bago lang tayo pumunta sa introduction. Leslie, Mary Rose, Christine, Jonalyn, Kaislyn, Rich Ann, Jao, Jocelyn, do you have any questions, guys?
Wala pa naman po, sir. Clear pa naman po.
If you guys have any questions or concerns, just make sure to raise your hand or unmute yourself, ask me anything. You can do that. So, all right. So because I agree and disagree to a certain level, but with one opposing view on either paragraph 2 or 4, that's how I'm going to make my introduction. I'm going to introduce the topic. I'm going to introduce my stand. Oh, so you keep on saying about stand, but I still don't understand what do you mean. Stand is your opinion in which you have to justify later on the body. Therefore, this stand part of your essay writing is very essential. Okay, so if you're going to write a legitimate introduction, if it is agree, disagree, or to what extent do you agree, disagree, this stand is very essential. And this stand must be seen, okay? It must be seen at the last sentence of your first paragraph. Okay, let me repeat that. All right. So let's say here's your introduction. All right, your introduction, you have your first sentence, and then you have your second sentence, and then this is where the stand comes into the picture. If it is the last sentence of your introduction, then it should be your stand. Sir, what if I only have one sentence and one stand in my essay? It's okay. The minimum requirement for an introductory paragraph or in any paragraph of your essay writing must be 2 sentences. You can go as much as 4 sentences, but I think a 5-sentence introduction is overkill already. So I don't recommend you guys exceeding 4 sentences. Actually, I will not be writing 4. I will only be making it as concise as 3 sentences. If I were you, first sentence, the definition of ideas. Second sentence would be generalization of the topic. And then the third sentence will be my stand. So what is my stand? This is where you're going to insert your belief. I agree that, I support the notion that, I adhere the ideology that, I'm not in favor of, I find myself in accord with the notion that, I disaccord with. Sir, paano po itong I support? Paano po kung ang sagot ko po I do not support? Then say so. I do not support. What I don't want you to do is yung don't, yung do not is gagawin yung don't. So bawal yan ha. As much as possible, no contractions. Always make sure that you're going to write in their complete form. So I do not support the notion that internet has made traditional libraries unnecessary. So if that's my my answer, so be it. Okay? That's how you're going to write a stand. Now, the case here is we need to remember what separates agree disagree with to what extent. And the first one is the format used, okay? The format that we used for the topic, and most importantly, the adverb, like what Zhao has said. We can only answer the extent of our agreement or disagreement using adverb. And adverb, we have adverbs that we use for 100%, completely, totally, fully. And then we have adverb for 70-30 approach, or the approach number 2. We have the almost entirely, predominantly, for the most part. So you have to use them as well. So again, what are the adverbs? I have let you seen them a while ago. So later on, I will be handing you over. Ito namang entire lecture na to for everyone's convenience. I will be converting this. Listen to me. I'll be converting this into a PDF file. From PowerPoint, I will convert this into PDF, and from PDF, I will be uploading the PDF to our Facebook group today. So I hope that everyone gets the picture why I do not allow you to copy. I do not want you to do a lecture or to write things on your notes now, because I want you to focus entirely on the lecture. So you will be having the handout later, don't worry, okay? So, okay, take a look at this. This is my sample introduction. Take a look, ha? Wait lang. I'll be using Spotlight. Okay. The modernization of technology has made access to information a lot easier more than ever before. Some people believe that due to this, the traditional way of learning through libraries is no longer essential. So what I did in my first statement, first 2 sentences rather, is I presented the topic. The topic, it's so simple. The internet has made traditional libraries unnecessary. So the question is, what is the main idea about? The main idea is about education. When you're talking about comparison of internet and library in terms of education, the similarity is the acquisition of information. And the difference is how accessible, how quick, how convenient one is over the other. So literally, what I did is I presented the idea that because technology has constantly been evolving, it is now much easier to access information using internet technology, right? And because of that, some people claim, some people believe, many individuals assert, many people are of the opinion that the traditional way of learning, which is done through going to library, borrowing books, it's no longer essential. And the no longer essential, I replaced that, I replaced the word unnecessary with the phrase is no longer essential. So clearly, the importance of first sentence, the first 2 sentences, which clearly what I did here, 2 sentences, separated them, is I want to have some sort of topic that my stand can relate to. Okay? Kung saan siya kung magkakakapit. Alright? Ano ba yung question? Ano ba yung pinaka-idea na kailangan mo i-present? Now, take a look at this stand. This is my stand. This is the reason why I almost entirely support. Again, which is not 100%. So clearly, because this is not 100%, I would expect an argument for the library. Okay, but I will expect more positive arguments for the internet. Because take a look at this. I almost entirely support the idea that the internet provides better knowledge acquisition, hindi better knowledge. Ang knowledge ay talino. Ang knowledge acquisition, pagkuha ng impormasyon. But, tingnan nyo ta, but I do not neglect the fact that libraries must still be maintained. All right, I just want you guys to look at that first. I'm just going to blow my nose, excuse me. Alright guys, I'm back. So medyo ako ay na-aching lang. Alright, so this is my introduction. Yes, Leslie, you raise your hand. Why?
Sir, can I ask question?
Yes, sure.
I just want to clarify lang po. Dun po sa general overview po, it doesn't necessary po na another paragraph po siya. Pwede po siyang idugtong sa introduction right away.
Okay.
Kasi I
So,
believe
Leslie-
po in task 1, binibigyan po siya, parang hina-highlight po natin siya na another paragraph po siya, like po in overall.
Kasi here's
dun
the
po
idea.
natin-
Task
Yes
1
po.
is different from task 2. The overview that we use in task 1 is not the same as task 2. I think that you are somehow getting some sort of comparison to them. I don't want you doing that, Leslie. So first of all, I want to let you see that this one right here, tingnan mo to, Leslie. Yeah, huwag ka muna mag-unmute, Leslie. Just want to
Okay po.
see it. This one right here, this statement, actually statements because there are 2 sentences. These statements right here, the modernization of technology has made access to information a lot easier more than ever before. Some people believe that due to this, the traditional way of learning through libraries is no longer essential. Because of that idea, I can now answer something. I can now agree or disagree on something. Oh, Leslie, padaliin ko muna ha. Padaliin ko lang. Burahin muna natin to. Kasi naglag ka ng konti. All right? Let me block everything here. All right. Simplihan natin. Eating vegetables. Okay. Are good eating vegetables must be forced to young people. To what extent? Okay, I was about to answer agree 100% on this, but because of the forced, I won't. Okay? So what happens here is there's a reason why eating vegetables must be forced to young people statement comes into fruition. May dahilan kung bakit itong eating vegetables must be forced to young people ay it has come to existence. At ang dahilan nun is about health. Right, Leslie?
Yes po.
Okay, so what am I going to use as my introduction now? What am I going to use so that I can write an answer, so that I can write a stand? So what I will do, sasabihin ko muna that many people claim that vegetables are essential in a person's diet. And many people claim that we should make young people eat them mandatory. Although I believe, or although I support this idea because of the benefits of vegetables to the human body, I do not believe that, or I do not neglect the fact that they should not be forced. You get the idea, Leslie?
Yes po, yes po.
Okay, the eating vegetables must be forced to young people is my statement. And my question to myself is this. Why is this question the question? Why is this topic the topic? Bakit ito yung topic? Saan to nanggaling? Saan to nagmula? Ano ba ang main idea? Ang main idea ba ay pagkain ng vegetable na dapat ipilit natin sa mga bata? Oo. Pero what's the idea here? It's because vegetables are healthy. But because of the word forced, I am not going to answer 100% agree because of the word force, because typically we should still make sure that children, that students, young people, they will be having their own free will as to what they would like to eat or not. That's why this has come to existence, Leslie. That's why the modernization of technology has made access to information a lot easier more than ever before. You know what is this, Leslie? It's so simple. This is internet. And this statement right here, that some people believe that due to this, the traditional way of learning through libraries is no longer essential, has made libraries unnecessary. That's it. And this is my stand. To what extent do you agree, disagree? And this is my answer. I almost entirely support the idea that internet provides better knowledge. But there's an argument that I don't go 100% for that. So I'm not making a general overview, Leslie. I am just paraphrasing the task description. I am just finding an idea which the task itself revolves into. What is the main topic? How does this topic came into existence? So that mayroong panggagalingan yung aking sagot. Sasagot ako ng I agree, disagree. Saan ako nag-agree? Saan ako nagdi-disagree? Doon sa topic statement. Doon sa background statement. Is it clear, Leslie?
Yes po.
Thank you so much. I hope that it's clear now. Okay. If you have any questions, Leslie, I know if there's something confusing to you, just let me know. All right. How about everyone? Christine, Jao, Rich Ann, Caitlin, Jocelyn, Mary Rose, Jonalyn. Yes, Jocelyn, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Parang ano lang po, for clarification lang po, sir, if
Okay.
tama. Yung sa first two sentences po kasi, right before the stand, hindi po parang, hindi po ba namin pwedeng gamitin or ulitin yung kung ano yung nandoon sa question? Like, we just write the internet makes the use of the library unnecessary. Parang that's our
It's a very
first
nice
sentence today.
question that you have there, Jocelyn, because in
Yes.
the
Yung mga parang bawal namin gawin or ano po ba yung mga parang hindi
in the
magandang
common mistakes in writing, common mistakes in the IELTS at saka content writing, tatlong lecture ko yan diniscuss. All right, so I just want to remind you why we are not going to copy exactly what is in the task description. Why, Jocelyn? It's because of that word, copy.
Okay, sir.
Okay, parang na-enlighten ka na agad nung narinig mo yung word na copy,
Opo.
Jocelyn. Because we cannot copy words from the task description. Now, answer me, Jocelyn, why do you think we cannot copy words from the task description? You answer me.
Kasi sir, parang kinuha mo lang yung idea doon and that's not really coming from your own idea.
No, not idea. I'm just getting the idea. Sa ginawa ko na to, I'm just getting the same idea. But why we cannot copy the words, the exact same words? Because in IELTS, Jocelyn, vocabulary and lexical resource are being assessed. And ano bang sabi natin? We want to avoid repetition as much as possible. And what is repetition? If this is my task description and I'm just going to copy exactly what's in the task description, how can the examiner think that I am a person who has a vast lexical resource kung kokopyahin ko lang yung words na meron sa tanong niya? Hindi lang yan sa writing, Jocelyn, maging sa speaking. Even in the speaking subtest, I told you that as much as possible, you have to come up with your own, not to mimic examiner's words, because both writing and speaking, examiners assess our vocabulary and lexical resource. Here's the thing. Sabi ko dun sa aking content writing lecture, sa mga mag-e-exam na po ngayong buwan at kakapasok nyo pa lang, let's say meron lang kayo 2-3 linggo na preparation, let's say sa entire task description, you can use some words. Pwede kang magpalit ng ibang words, not the entire thing, because it gives you, it gives the stand, it gives the introduction some sort of relevance to the topic. But it's not very ideal. You will not get a band of 7 or higher if you're just going to copy the words. So that's what we don't want to happen. Examiners thinking na, oh, just because Jocelyn or just because Kevin copied the exact same words, this person doesn't have a vast array of lexical resource. So I'm giving him or her a 5. Do you want that? Of course not.
Okay po, sir.
All right. Anyone else? So you will be getting your own general. So, sige, pwede tayong gumawa dito, ha? Okay, let's make more introduction. Because I have a lot of samples today, but do sa previous questions ko, I don't have. So, gawa natin yan. Still have a lot of time, though. Okay. I want to call you out on this, Rich Ann, because you were the one who I asked about this question. A country will develop more quickly. Rich Ann, are you there? Or are you already eating your lunch without us?
I'm still here, sir.
Okay. So Rich Ann, do you believe that a country, you do believe, you did believe because you mentioned that, yes, okay, will develop quickly and will become more interesting if the population is made up of different nationality and culture, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. But you see, Rich Ann, are you going to agree with this 100% or are you going to have an opposing view as well? Like what I'm going to have?
I'll go with agreeing 100%.
Okay. Now, Rachel, I want you to understand my point of view. Why I will not go 100% on this. First of all, let's talk about the Philippines. Okay, Philippines. All right, Philippines. Do you consider Philippines as a country that is made up of different nationalities and culture?
Yes.
Yes. When you go up north, when you go to Baguio City, what sort of nationalities are you going to encounter?
Koreans.
Koreans. Exactly. When you go in Metro Manila, and go to Metro Manila, what sort of nationalities are you going to encounter?
American.
Americans,
Yeah.
especially Nigerians
Yeah.
and different Japanese. You have Indians,
Chinese.
right? Yes, Chinese, especially the Chinese, the ones who do all the drug stuff in the country. I don't want to get things about this, but here's the thing: the Philippines is made up of different nationalities and culture. But the main reason why I will not go 100% on this is because of this word, displacement. Do you know what this word means, Rich Ann?
Displacement. Not totally. I'm not really familiar.
Displacement is when your very own culture, your very own citizens, they are the ones being pushed away.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, imagine this. We have our own cuisine, but many people prefer Korean cuisine. So what happens is that yung negosyo ng pagkakarinderya bumababa, tumataas yung negosyo ng pagkasamgyup. That's displacement. May mga sarili tayong pelikula, may mga sarili tayong mga TV programs, may mga sampalan ng mga kabit, may mga yumaman, nagkigante, ganyan. Although nakakasawa na yan para sa mga Pinoy. So we prefer what? Korean dramas. We prefer animes, right? We prefer Netflix over them. So yun yung displacement, your very own, not only the culture but also the people. Dahil magtatayo tayo ng mga malls, yung mga locals, alright, o magtatayo tayo ng mga farm, yung mga locals such as ITAS, na nadi-display sila sa kanilang location. Na, kumbaga natataboy natin sila. So yun yung idea bakit hindi ako mag 100% dito. So take a look ha. Okay na, Rich Ann, you can mute yourself now. A country will develop quickly and will become more interesting if the population is made up of different nationality and culture. What I'm going to do, Leslie and Jocelyn, about this statement is this, I'm going to paraphrase it. All right, so a country, I can probably replace it with a nation that is composed of a diverse collection of inhabitants and culture. I will not replace culture. A nation that is composed of diverse collection of inhabitants and culture will be able to speed up its development according to many individuals. Okay, a nation that is composed of diverse collection of inhabitants and culture is not only an interesting prospect, but one which will be able to speed up its development according to many individuals. That is basically what a country will develop quickly and will become more interesting if the population is made up of different nationality and culture. So since you already know my answer here, I'll be writing something like, I don't know, that is the reason why I do not entirely support the idea because of the displacement of one's very own culture, something like that. So this is how I generalize my first sentence. A country will develop quickly and will become more interesting if the population is made up of different nationality. The population is made up of different nationality. I replace it with composed of diverse collection of inhabitants, which is from different nationalities, from different cultures as well. So Leslie and Jocelyn, do you understand how to paraphrase now?
Yes po.
Yes, sir. But sir, I have follow-up po.
Yes.
Yung sa generalization po ba doesn't always parang mean na dapat dalawang sentences siya before the stand. It can only be a one sentence or
Look at this sentence, Jocelyn. How many sentences do I have here? Only one, right?
Yes, sir.
And my plan is I'm going to put the stand right away. So how many
Okay.
sentences is that?
Two sentences,
Okay.
the generalization
How many is the
and stand.
maximum that I've mentioned a while ago? 5, but that's overkill. Sabi ko, that's overkill.
Yes.
Writing a 5-sentence introduction is already overkill. So I only try to minimize my versions to only 4. So it's either 2, the golden number is 3. Most of my introduction on my samples, you will see 3.
Mhm.
It's very seldom you see 4, but it's mostly 2 kapag tulad na ito, nagmamadali ako.
Okay, sir.
So 2 to 4 would be the ideal.
Okay, sir. Thank you po.
All right, Leslie, open your microphone. It's your turn. We'll be talking about the museums and artwork, the one that you answered a while ago. Leslie, are you going to go 100% with the museums and artworks important for the country?
Not po.
Why? Tell me, because you have the same. You have the same answer. What's the opposing argument? Why aren't you going to go 100% with museums and artworks important for the country?
There are a lot of factors po aside from museums and artworks that we can
Correct.
incorporate.
Correct. Right? That's it. What if suddenly the Philippines has put all of its effort into dealing with museums and artworks? Okay, that's nice because that's an upgrade from our normal day-to-day ideas. But you see, the Philippines also have other problems. We have health concerns, we have food security problem, we have education sector. So I'm going to say I agree with this statement. Museums and artworks are important, but I'm going to go on 70-30, presenting the importance of other aspects of human life, which include food, education, and other basic needs. So that's it. Good job, Leslie. So now we're done with introduction. So because I want everyone to understand again, this is my introduction. All right, for the topic. This is my introduction for that topic about internet versus library, whether library is unnecessary now. And this is what will happen in my body and conclusion. So take a look at this. For this one, argument one, this will be, I will give positive argument for internet. Same goes with paragraph 3, positive argument for the internet. But this one, I will also give positive argument for the library. Okay. So positive argument for the internet, perhaps like what one student mentioned a while ago, would be accessibility. And I also added something about the price of the books compared to a one-time payment of gadgets. But I will be defending library as well in such a way that library is also required by those people who do not have access to internet connection. So that is the entirety of what my essay will look like. So let's have a look at my arguments. Let me use my spotlight here. In terms of education, there is no doubt that the internet propels the academe to greater heights, since obtaining information is much more accessible through online web search engines like Google than traveling all the way to a library to search for the needed information. Individuals can do this easily with a few clicks and taps whenever they want to, wherever they may be. So I gave an argument that internet is much more accessible. How? We have web search engines. Compare it to library, where in a library you need to go there. And sometimes, I haven't added this yet, but libraries follow they follow an office hours. They will be open at 8, they will be closed at 5, and you also have to have library membership. So that's exactly one of the few reasons why internet is the winner in the comparison of accessibility. Moreover, take a look. Online resource materials such as electronic files are also less expensive. This is the one that I'm talking about, the cost, and more eco-friendly than books. So I have two arguments. One, less expensive, another eco-friendly. The cost that people needs to pay for physical copies is much higher compared to ebooks, since they require cutting of trees. Tingnan nyo ha, in publishing a book, we cut trees, processing of the wood product to make paper, printing, and pati yung pagka-transport niya. May tinatawag tayong carbon emission dyan kasi kailangan natin siyang isakay sa mga ships, ipadala sa mga trucks, and even transporting. All of these contribute greatly to the environmental problems the world is currently facing. So dinagdag natin, this is about the cost and this is about the environmental, the ecological aspect. All right. Now, I'll be also defending library. However, take a look at that. I use the word in terms of education to begin my discussion, but because this is a similar topic, this paragraph right here also adds additional positive information about the library, sorry, internet, I used the word moreover. But because after these two paragraphs, I will be going to the opposite side. I will be using the word however. So see how I use the cohesive devices, all right? However, I can attest. So sir, why are you using why? Because in our instruction, provide examples based on your own knowledge and experience. So I have to use the word I to express that this is my own example. I can attest that libraries contain literary articles that are still essential even today. Many people who live in the remote areas still do not have access to stable internet connection or even the money to buy electronic equipment for access to different websites. Iba nga, wala pang kuryente, di ba? This is the reason why I still believe that libraries are vital to the ones who need to study despite not having the gadgets and internet connection. So that is my sample. But again, I have the conclusion here. In the conclusion, I'm going to summarize everything. I'm going to summarize what I discussed in the introduction. I can also add my stand as well, but I'm not going to copy exactly what I wrote in the introduction. And then I'm going to put the general topic of the advantages of internet, and then advantage of library and what my future outlook would look like. So let me read this to you in conclusion. Although the internet is indeed a technological marvel when it comes to information acquisition, I'm also in favor of library improvements so the ones who need them can access the knowledge as well. Together, society can become more educated in the future by becoming equally technologically advanced and ensuring learning for everyone through online and physical books, which is again library. So I want both of them to be able to improve more in the future. So again, society can be more educated. So that is the entire essay that I made for this one. So tips, okay, try to come up with an interesting introduction and conclusion to be able to impress the examiner. So the key is always in the introductory paragraph. The key is always in those parts, in those areas. Those are very essential. You do not need to write or state all your thoughts or arguments in your essay. Organize them. Make sure that your essay flows greatly, and by making it flow, paragraphing and connecting devices are what you need to master. Okay. Sometimes you'll find yourself between choosing which to write from your heart or from your mind. Always remember that you are being assessed. There will be situations wherein, or mali na yung word din, in which you will need to go against what you feel in order to be able to write more arguments and views. Do not go around the bush. As much as possible, go directly to the point and concisely state your arguments and views. So improve your writing by reading, expand your vocabulary and knowledge storage by reading as much newspapers, review materials, and books as you can. All right. Always practice, attend your minor lectures. All right. Here's another sample that I want you guys to see. All right. The growing number of overweight people is putting a strain on the healthcare system. Jao, are you there, Jao? Jao?
Yes, sir.
Jao, tell me, what does this statement saying the growing number of overweight people is putting a strain on the healthcare system?
Some people think that the best way to deal with this problem is to
But that's the first statement. The growing number of overweight people is putting a strain on the healthcare system.
So the question is, what is my I think if I am agree or disagree to that question, sir.
No, Jao, not yet.
Question.
The question that I have here is this. Let me draw a line. The growing number of overweight people is putting a strain on the healthcare system. So, Jao, what does this statement give an impression to you?
It's all about
unhealthy individuals
Yes. Mhm.
that can cause detrimental effect to healthcare
What's
system.
this strain on the healthcare system?
I think it's more patient are coming into the hospital because of
True.
the number,
True.
because of the
Thank you
growth.
so much, Xiao. That's all I need to hear. Yes, Jocelyn, you raised your hand. Why?
Sorry, sir. I was about lang po to answer na it's parang a negative yung statement, parang ganun.
Okay. So here's the easy path to understand this first statement, everyone. Okay. So Jia was right that the unhealthy individuals, okay, which we refer to as the overweight people, they put a strain on the healthcare system. Pinapahirapan nila the healthcare system. Why? If you're going to get the top 10 deadliest diseases worldwide, even in the Philippines, you will get heart attack, you will get cerebrovascular accident, you will have stroke. Majority of the problems on the healthcare system, deadliest diseases, are because people are overweight. So many patients now, let's disregard COVID for a while, but many patients still, even today, mostly that is what our country is very concerned about. Top 3 deadliest diseases, cardiovascular diseases. If I'm not mistaken, 3rd, 4th, or 5th would be cancer, but I'm not so sure about the information that I have because that was already 2018 pa. So that's the idea. The main idea of this topic is to highlight that the overweight people is putting a strain on the healthcare because of this unhealthy lifestyle. They're the ones na kailangan laging gamutin. Sila ang lagi nag-occupy ng mga hospital beds. That's what we mean by putting a strain on the healthcare system. Now, let me ask you a question. Mary Rose Padilla. Mary Rose, are
Yes,
you
sir.
there? Or
Yes,
are you
sir.
already eating your lunch?
No, sir.
No, okay. So take a look at this, Mary Rose. Some people think that the best way to deal with this problem is to introduce more physical education lessons in the school curriculum. So again, Mary Rose, we have a problem already of many people being overweight, and they're the ones putting a strain on the healthcare system. So we
Yes.
have to put an end to that, right? So what
Yes.
they want to do is yung next generation na magiging probably, possibly overweight is pipigilan na natin. And by that, ang kanilang naisip na solution is mag-introduce daw ng mas maraming physical education lessons or perhaps dagdagan yung oras ng physical education sa school curriculum.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, here's the question, Mary Rose. Do you think that adding more physical education lessons, adding more hours for physical education would help, although indirectly, put a stop on this strain on the healthcare system in the future?
Yes, sir.
Yes, exactly. Kasi Mary Rose, what happens is physical education is right next to fitness. And when you say physical fitness, that's the enemy of overweight people.
Yes, sir.
So we are trying to give those overweight individuals or potentially yung mga bata na magiging overweight a chance na maging healthy now, maging active now, para sa future hindi na sila makadagdag sa strain sa healthcare system. Tama ba yun, Mary Rose?
That's right, sir.
Okay. Ngayon, ito ang tanong ko. Kay Caitlin naman tayo magtanong. Alright, Caitlin. Ikaw ba ay 100% agree dito or ikaw ay 70-30?
70-30, sir.
Okay. What is your opposing view? Bakit hindi 100% na PE lang?
Sir, kasi kung sa school lang siya mai-apply at hindi sasamahan ng healthy lifestyle sa bahay, hindi siya mag-work.
Tama, correct. So correct, Caitlin, you hit the nail right on the head. Okay, so that's exactly what we want to answer here. This is not 100% going to guarantee that more PE hours, more PE lessons would put less strain on the healthcare system in the future? Rather, yes, it could be. Pero may isa pa, which is discipline sa bahay at the same time yung food na kinakain nila. Di ba? So ngayon, paano ko to ginawang essay? So babasahin ko sa inyo yung akin pong mismong ginawa na essay para dito. So I just want everyone to listen. All right. Many individuals believe that the issue of obesity can be rectified. Rectified, correct. Itama, all right? Through the facilitation of more physical education classes to the curriculum. So, para saan ba yan? So as to relieve the burden of the health system in the future. So what's my answer? I predominantly find myself in accord, which is 70-30, that this solution can address this concern. But I do not neglect other factors must be considered, which is exactly what we're going to answer later. Sabi nga ni Caitlin, discipline sa bahay at saka yung kinakain. So let me read the content of my first paragraph. It is an outright fact that introducing more physical education offers many benefits to the individuals. The most significant factor is the long-term impact to the health of every student. Sinabi ko na, no doubt, nakakatulong talaga yan. Paano? The sports and games serve as refresher for the students after their lessons that make them more physically active. Ano pa? They develop motor skills and what else? They attain knowledge. As they do regular physical activities, pag nakasanayan nila yon, they will become accustomed to becoming active until adulthood. Kung bata pa lang sila, sanay na sila na mag-play ng sports. Alam na nila kung paano maglaro ng ganitong games. So, na-inculcate sa kanilang abilities na I should be active, and by staying active, they will become healthy until adulthood. So we're just trying to put a culture in them as early as their very young age na they should play, they should engage in physical activities because it has a long-term significant impact. And that is when they become adult, they will still be accustomed to that. So we are seeing that yung mga many young adults ngayon, nasa mga edad 25, 35 years old, sila yung mga mahihilig mag-aya ng badminton, sila yung mahilig mag-aya ng basketball with their friends. So we're expecting that somehow, because of that nagsimula yun, nung bata pa lang sila, may mga PE lessons na, may mga physical fitness na. That is what we're going to expect in the future. Moreover, dahil magdadagdag na naman ako ng additional positive information here, doing physical activities such as biking and running at the playground together with friends and classmates, hindi naman kasi lahat sanay mag-sports, inculcate special skills of cooperation, coordination, and the socialization to other people. Playing team sports also develops the cognitive understanding of students for the importance of teamwork. And again, that will lead to a much better overall positive long-term effect when they grow up. However, ayun na naman, okay? The body also needs healthy food and enough rest. Hindi naman sapat na PE lang ng PE. Now, young people must refrain from consumption of junk food that often contains high calories and that lack the necessary vitamins and nutrients. Furthermore, students must be taught to lessen their time spent playing computer games late at night instead of getting enough sleep, which could take a toll to one's health. So, in conclusion, or to conclude, I support more hours for physical education to reduce sedentary lifestyle, which is the main cause of obesity. I also believe that this concern can be curbed, mapapahinto, by taking all the preventive measures with strong self-discipline to make the society healthier in the future. So that is the end of our lecture for today. So again, I will be converting this PowerPoint into a PDF, which I am going to upload on our Facebook group today, so that you will be having all the copies from the task response, coherence, vocab, grammar, everything in between. You will be having the copy for yourself. Okay? So Everyone, before we end our discussion, Leslie, Jao, Mary Rose, Jocelyn, Caitlin, Rich Ann, Christine, and Jonalyn, do you have any questions?
None
So
po, sir.
far, sir.
None, sir.
I just want to do a recap of what happened today. So we have two formats to approach. Approach 1, which is the 100% agree-disagree, refer to the agree-disagree. But be careful, ang pinagkaiba nila, ang difference nila is yung word for 100%, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin. Yung mga completely, yan. Yan, completely, fully, hindi natin yan pwedeng gamitin kay basic agree-disagree. Pwede lang natin gamitin itong completely at saka fully kapag to what extent ang ating tanong. So, yung approach 2, okay, yung approach 2 naman, which is my ideal approach. Okay, approach 2. Or the ideal. Siyempre, andyan yung introduction. Andyan yung gagawin natin paragraph 1. Intro, which is paraphrase. Tinuruan ko na kayo ilang beses na mag-paraphrase. Plus stand. Yung stand, yun nga, yung I support, I am in favor, I believe, I agree, I find myself in accord, plus lalagyan mo nung mga words for 70-30, which is almost entirely, predominantly, for the most part, yeah. And then, paragraph 2, sir, pwede ba mauna natin yung argument doon sa other side? Let's say kanina, sa library versus internet. Pwede bang bigyan ko muna ng positive argument sa library? Yes. Walang babawal sa iyo dyan. Ang sabi nga natin, the opposing view will be found either on paragraph 2 or paragraph 4. Pero sa akin kasi, mas maganda yung layout ko kung unahin ko na muna yung dalawa. Ang di lang pwede, let's say, ang ginawa mo, paragraph 2, internet. Tapos, paragraph 3, ginitna mo si library ngayon. Tapos paragraph 4, saka mo na naman nilagay si internet. So anong nangyari? Napalaman mo pa si library. So hindi siya ganun ka-coherent tingnan. So ang gagawin natin, yung parehong idea, which is internet, positive side. So this is the one that you have to put together. And then si last statement ko, doon ako maglalagay ng, on the other hand, however, despite the benefits of the internet, pwede ko rin gawin yun, ano, as my connecting device in comparison. All right, so library naman to. And then conclusion, paragraph 5. Conclusion, yung mga words na pwede mong gamitin, in conclusion, to conclude, to summarize, in summary, in general, generally, yan. Tapos, plus your summary, and then future outlook. Ano yung pananaw mo na mangyayari sa hinaharap based on what the perception is. So again, that's just the recap of what happened today. So this is what you're going to do for to what extent do you agree, disagree, okay, when you encounter such question on the test. Now, once again, before I end this lecture, I just want to ask everyone, Leslie, Jao, Mary Rose, Jocelyn, Caitlin, Rich Ann, Christine, do you guys have any questions or concerns? You want me to clarify anything at all?
Wala naman na po, sir.
Okay. So if that's the case, you don't have any questions, then I can't hold on to this much longer. I have to let you go somehow. So I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for being with me in this lecture that I have for you, everyone. So thank you so much for being with us today. I wish you guys to